Our texturing is back here at the anvils. We have 3 anvils. We have 2 on this side and we have 1 on the other side. When you go to texture, you are going to be using the metal hammers to texture. Okay? There is a brass mallet. The brass mallet is used for any stamping. These hammers here are called ball peen hammers. They have a ball on one side and they're flat on the other. These are used for hammered textures, actually hitting into the metal and making marks in the metal throughout the surface. And I'm going to show you how to do that actually first. Now these can also be used for stamping, but they're only used for stamping if the brass mallet is not available. The reason being is the brass mallet will not mess up the backs of the stamps because it's softer than the stamps. Okay? So I'm going to start by I'm going to use this larger ball peen hammer to make some texture inside the metal. Now, typically we use scrap metal, and inside here there's a bunch of scrap. I just got scrap with no marks in it. The scrap metal is up where you throw the scrap metal near the saw frames in the front, but there's usually some scrap metal back here that you can practice on. I always suggest you practice your texturing first. You're going to set your metal on the anvil, and then if you want a hammer texture, the round part of the ball peen hammer will make these small round depressions in the metal. And the way you do this is you just tap down on it. And you cover the entire surface where you want the texture. And you can see how that's changing the surface slightly. At least I hope you can see that. Now, that's the rounded part. I can also use the flat part to make little lines or marks in there too, and maybe use the edge of it. And this will change the surface also. Now you notice I have a piece of brass and I have a piece of copper here. The reason I have both is because they will texturize a little bit different. So whatever metal you're deciding to put texture in, you're going to want to practice on, because copper's softer. It will stamp easier, it will mark easier. You don't have to hit it as hard. All right, now if I want to stamp, inside here in this basket, there are a bunch of what are called chasing tools. They will make lines, they will make dots. So depending on what you want to put into that, curved lines, into your metal, these will make just marks like that. Now I also have stamps. The stamps vary, there aren't a lot of them, but some of them look like small little leaves. Some of them look like a swirl. Just all depends on which stamp you use, obviously. But there are multiple stamps here that will stamp in different marks. This one here is like a small little leaf. Depending on what kind of stamping you want in there, you could choose any of those. Now when you go to stamp marks in, you're going to hold on to the tool. I'll do this in copper this time. You're going to hold on to the tool. You're going to set it down on top of the metal where you want it. Typically, I draw a line there if I want a specific line. And then I tap down firmly once. And that will make a mark in the metal. It'll make a line because this was a straight line. If I want to continue that line, I add that tool right back in the line a little bit and I just move it up some, tap it firmly, and I can continue that line. If you hit it multiple times, you'll end up with multiple marks. I can also, I got a piece back here that'll make sort of like a little dot or a little depression. And I'll notice I'm just hitting it once. That'll make these small little kind of round marks. This one here will make a smaller dot. So I suggest that you come back and you practice before you put anything in your metal. You can practice on scrap and get an idea of what this stuff looks like. There's ones that does a curve line too. There are stamps that do a curve line. Set it down, tap firmly, and it'll make a curved line in the metal. The stamps, it's the same thing. I'm going to pick the one that looks like a leaf. I'll set that down on here. Set it in place. and I will tap down firmly, and that'll actually make like a small leaf in the metal. If you hit multiple times, if you come up here and you're hitting like this, it could skip on you. Notice that I have multiple images there. That's probably not a desirable mark. So make sure when you come up, you position it exactly where you want it, set it down, push down firmly, and hit firmly once. And that'll give you a nice clear image. Any questions? Oh, one last thing. Do not ever hit the stamp into the anvil. You should not be hitting steel into steel. Number one, you could shatter the tool. Number two, you'll probably mark up the surface, which these anvils are very expensive and we can't get them resurfaced. And all those little marks will show up in your metal when you're trying to tap it flat. That's all I got.